And so if you remember a week or two ago, or I guess last week while I was gone, the lectures talked about plane stress and plane strain, at least in the concepts of Moore circles, right? If you don't remember, you can go back and watch those lectures again. But under so-called plane stress conditions, so we use this whenever we have something that's really thin. Right? Plane stress means that sigma 3,3 is equal to sigma 1,3 is equal to sigma 2,3 is equal to 0. And this comes from the fact, if we have something really thin, you have to have a traction-free or stress-free. Any free surface has doesn't have an external force applied right there. Any free surface, that's what I mean by free surface. There's not a traction applied to it externally. If there's a free surface, then the traction is 0. And so, if the traction is 0, you certainly have a normal vector that's 0, that's defined, and you have the so-called Cauchy stress equation, right? So if all components of the traction vector are 0, but the normal vector is clearly not 0, then the only way that can occur is if the stress is 0 on the surface. And so if you have a stress that's 0 here, and you have a stress that's 0 also on the bottom surface, and the sample's really thin, those two surfaces are really close to one another, the stress in between can't do anything but go from 0 to 0 in a really small area, right? So it's going to be approximately 0. If you have something that goes from 0 to 0 over a really small area, it's a good approximation to say that it's 0. Right? So that's where this plane stress comes in. So we can then write the reduced plane stress equations by plugging in these approximations, or right here, into these equations. And then we have the so-called plane stress equation. So what you have is even further reduced. And so that we use these for planar models. So this is plane stress, okay? And I know we're 1 minute over, but just to finish up here, we can do the same thing for plane strain. So in the plane strain formulation, then we have, actually, I'll just write, we'll just do it next time. I will write what the plane stress is in terms of, so we have the stress vector. It's just the inverse of this. All right, so the stress vector and the stress and strain vectors are the same. But if you wanted to write, so now you have it, strains in terms of stresses or stresses in terms of strains, however you want it. For plane stress, we'll just finish up plane strain next time, and then we'll move on to something else.